Topping today's news, an increase in sexual assaults raising concerns. The latest on sitting members of Parliament, Adrian Gibson and Kirk Cornish, legal battles. The national debt increases by 1% to $12.5 billion. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Women were the target for criminal activity over the weekend. A home invasion and subsequent rape of two females in the early morning hours this morning, leaving police here in the capital seeking the public's assistance in identifying and locating the suspects. According to police reports, two women ages 37 and 35 years old were asleep in their apartment in the area of Chippingham shortly after 2:20 a.m. when two males gained entry through a window in the building. One of the males produced a firearm and robbed the victims of an undisclosed amount of cash. However, before leaving the apartment, both suspects sexually assaulted the victims and then made good their escape in one of the victims' red Nissan Note, license plate number AV3189. Now, this incident comes on the heels of a 38-year-old woman being raped in bushes along Bacardi Road on Saturday morning. The male suspect forced his victim into a small gray vehicle at gunpoint, robbed her of an undetermined amount of cash, and subsequently raped her before making good his escape as well. Meantime, police are also seeking the public's assistance in locating a male suspect responsible for an armed robbery on Sunday afternoon, sometime around 1:20 p.m. A female victim, while parked in the front of a business establishment in the area of Boyd Road, was approached by a male dressed in dark clothing and a ski mask and brandishing a firearm, who exited a white vehicle and robbed the victim of her handbag, which contained an undisclosed amount of cash along with other personal items. The suspect then left in his vehicle, traveling in a southern direction on Boyd Road. Investigations continue into these matters. Police are aggressively seeking to identify and arrest the culprits in each of these matters. If you have any information that can assist the police, please contact them at 919 or 328-TIPS. That's 328-8477. Supreme Court Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson handed down her ruling today on two motions filed in the corruption trial of Long Island Member of Parliament and former Water and Sewage Corporation Executive Chairman Adrian Gibson. Gibson's attorney, Muriel Ducille, KC, was seeking to have a stay of the trial, arguing that Gibson's constitutional rights had been infringed. Justice Grant Thompson also ruled on whether Gibson's ex-fiancée, Alexandria Mackey, could testify virtually. Both applications were dismissed. Our Destiny Johnson has more in this next report.
Following arguments from both the Crown and the defense regarding applications filed this past Wednesday in the corruption trial of former executive chairman of the Water and Sewage Corporation, Adrian Gibson, Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson ruled that the applications filed by attorney for the defense, Muriel Ducille, were premature and dismissed the applications. On May 4th, by notice of motion, attorney Ducille sought declarations that Gibson's constitutional rights have been infringed due to the request by the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, Cordell Frazier, to give the evidence of the prosecution's witness, Alexandria Mackey, by way of live television link. This motion was not brought to the attention of the court until May 8th, which was the date scheduled for the beginning of the trial. The court found that the definition of presence is not merely restricted to physical presence, but includes virtual presence in circumstances where the witnesses' face and voice can be clearly seen and heard. The court also found the request for the witness's presence in court being vital to Gibson's case is unfounded and premature, resulting in that application being dismissed. Now included in the constitutional motion filed by Ducille were three issues brought to the Crown. The first was the issue of whether there was accurate and proper disclosure by the prosecution to the applicants. However, the prosecution prosecution denies that they have failed to provide the court and the other side with full disclosure of the necessary documents. Justice Grant Thompson reiterated the duty of the Crown to disclose all of the ordinary material required for the trial, but revealed that some of the items requested by Attorney Ducille were deemed extraordinary, as they could have not foreseen that the over 12 categories of documents would be required during case management hearings. The second issue was whether there was proper and adequate disclosure provided by the prosecution within a reasonable time. Following an audit, Justice Grant Thompson ruled that the prosecution did in fact provide the requested documents in a sporadic fashion. However, though the way Ducille received the documents were not ideal, he would still have enough time to prepare his defense, as the substantive trial has not begun. The final issue was whether the applicants would be disadvantaged if Ms. Mackey were allowed to appear and testify by live video feed. The court ruled that the prosecution could rely on the grounds of fair, as there is a high possibility that the evidence of Ms. Mackey may be diminished once she comes face to face with Gibson. Following the rulings, the prosecution told the court that it has been set to have the key witness, Mackey, present in court, as she has agreed to do so. She goes on to say that the public prosecutions has put in the necessary measures for her safety, and they are awaiting approval by the United States through diplomatic channels to testify in person if need be. Mr. Ducille telling the court that he will file an application for appeal in relation to both rulings by Justice Grant Thompson one day this week. Court was adjourned until Thursday, May 18th, 2023 at 10 a.m. for the paneling of the jury. For JCN News, I'm Destiny Johnson.
Thanks for that report, Destiny. Police files into the investigations of sexual and physical abuse leveled against a Progressive Liberal Party sitting member of Parliament will soon be forwarded to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for advice and consultation. Police are reportedly in the final stages of their investigations into those rape and abuse allegations leveled last month by an ex-girlfriend of North Abaco Member of Parliament Kurt Cornish. The allegations were reported to police on Grand Bahama. The woman has accused the Member of Parliament of raping, choking, hitting, and as well as allegedly making threats of death against her and her family. The Member of Parliament at the end of April turned himself into the police on Grand Bahama for questioning and was released on the same day. Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernandez told a local daily yesterday that police are wrapping up their investigations into those allegations and the files will soon be forwarded to the DPP. Government debt has increased by 1.1% or $137.6 million over December 2022, as revealed by the Ministry of Finance's Public Debt Statistical Bulletin. Financial officials in releasing the statistics for the 9-month period ending March 2023, and it shows that during the third quarter of the fiscal year 2022 to 2023, total government debt grew to $12.5 billion, up from $12.13 billion held at the end of the last fiscal year. The Debt Management Office of the Ministry of Finance is mandated to prepare and publish public debt statistical bulletins no later than 30 calendar days after the end of each quarter of each fiscal year. In its bulletin, the DMO also indicates that there was a 3.2% or $386.1 million increase in total debt since the period ending June 2022. Finance officials contend that dissemination of timely, consistent, comprehensive, reliable, internationally comparable public debt statistic represents a key element of the government's commitment to promote accountability and transparency in debt management activities. The ministry invites and encourages the public to visit the National Budget website, www.bahamasbudget.gov.bs, to view the various statistical reports available for the public. The Registrar General's department is being completely modernized with a state-of-the-art location and a new digital registry platform. The department was slated to move to its new location on the ground floor of the Bahamas Financial Center by the end of April, but that did not happen. Attorney General Senator Ryan Pinder, giving an update on the moves, says there have been delays with the move, but the platform is moving along quite nicely.
So the registrar, we are moving. There has been some delays with respect to procuring equipment, typical supply chain issues. And so that is still in process, but the contract is engaged and been working, and we're still looking to move, hopefully in short order. With respect to the company's platform, that platform is getting ready to be tested by industry, and we're moving into the data migration phase of that. We have data on a number of different systems, and so the data migration part of it's going to take some effort to be able to get the information correct, because you can't have incorrect data, obviously. And some of that's going to be required checking back on the actual physical files and checking data because it's coming from multiple sources. But all of that is certainly in train, and we look forward to a much improved customer experience with the company registry.
Senator Pinder says when the Registrar General's office move is complete, the government will seek to reform the operations of the Registrar General itself to make the operations more efficient. And finally, in this segment, the Member of Parliament for Fox Hill and Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Public Service, Fred Mitchell, continues to gain support in his battle to reverse the current banking and financial services trends that he says are a cause for concern for much of the general public, including the debanking of many Bahamian communities, unbridled fees, and a reduction in in-person customer service in banks. The minister, who recently gained support of the official opposition that also opposes the debanking of communities, gives an update on a petition against the banks he and his Fox Hill constituents are spearheading.
I'm deeply grateful for the responses to the planned petition to remove the regulatory authority on banks and their consumer relations from the central bank to some new statutory body. I've spoken with the businessmen who are positing a banking solution as to why they're dragging their feet on this solution. North Andros, South Andros, Great Harbor Key, Exuma, Long Island, Mayaguana, Crooked Island, Acklands are effectively debanked. We have a tourism country, and the paucity of service in Eleuthera, Abaco, and Exuma, and those others that I mentioned are a scandal. The central bank does nothing, but is trying to force us to go into a cashless society where the internet does not work half the time. And since most of us can do nothing about it but use our voices, we must sound the alarm that in 2023, this banking situation in our country is unacceptable. So stand by for that petition that I talked about.
Another issue Minister Mitchell has with the central bank is its continued push to eliminate checks and its promotion of a cashless society despite the lack of public support for such a policy decision. Minister Mitchell explains the premise behind the petition.
But the legislature cannot intervene in that issue or the depersonalization and debanking crisis unless there is a clear demonstration of political will and public pressure. Most banks are foreign-owned and directed. The Royal Bank of Canada is the government's main creditor, and the international community has been sold the idea that all of us down here in the Bahamas are crooks, so largely they don't give a hoot about equitable arguments. The decisions are made in Canada. The Bahamian-owned banks and credit unions will be afraid to rock the boat because the international community may cut them off. But there comes a time when you must say, when you have a voice, the voice is all you have, use it even if it shakes. And perhaps those in the House of Assembly, if you use your voice and speak loudly enough, will do something to really make the banks reform their behavior.
Recently, the Central Bank of the Bahamas dug in its heels and revealed that following consultation and feedback received during 2022, it has established a steering committee to oversee efforts to educate the general public on the reduction in the use of checks in the Bahamas. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.